The idea that happiness is this internal thing separate from the external world will often come up against the reality of the pains and struggles of life. Anyone can be happy or at peace or accepting of life when everything is going their way. Many can handle the occasional mishap, challenge, or setback. Some even take catastrophe pretty well. But what happens when everything you try fails? When all your work seems to come to nothing? When all that you thought would change if you just held out for a little longer never changes? Is there still happiness to be had? Is that pain even real? How do you respond when everything that can go wrong does, and there might not be a way out? The truth is that this is the life for millions of people, born in countries that are surrounded by poverty, never given an education, and at the whim of chance and luck, one mistake could have them killed or maimed. Could there actually be happiness in a time like that, and in a life like that? How about something not so drastic? What if your business fails, your spouse gets sick, you're behind on your bills and you're struggling to pay the basics to survive? Everything that you try to do to get ahead is met with an emergency or a problem that takes all the money you made. Your car breaks down, a pet gets sick, or your computer breaks or a cell phone stops working, and all that you work for and all that you do turns out for nothing. For many people, this is their life as well. And if happiness is not possible in this state, then it's saying that happiness is impossible for most. The problem with the spiritualists and the gurus and all the people that want to talk about inner peace is that almost uniformly, they're all well off and they're successful. And they were before they started down their little spiritual path. Or the renunciates, like Ramana Maharishi or Sri Ramana Krishna and other famous gurus. But what of you? What does any of the spiritual stuff have to do with a person who lives in the world and not in a monastery? Who faces the pressures of daily life, whether trivial or drastic? Who's in the world surrounded by the noise of life and having to deal with it on a daily basis? How does this relate to the single mother who is one sick day away from not having enough money to pay her rent? What does any of this mean for the person who's being held against their will and harm being done to them? Do these ideas have any place in any of these things? And if not, then what good do they have if they're only for the person who's dissatisfied and feels like something spiritual is missing? Spirituality has often been the province of the bored and the wealthy, those searching for something meaningful when the materialistic world hasn't brought them any meaning. The poor, the struggling, the hurt, the illiterate, all these seem to be the afterthought of a movement. But then what does spiritual truth serve if it's not always true? Not that it can't be heard or appreciated by the person that you're trying to share it with, but if it doesn't work for those who are struggling and need it the most, then how can one say it's working at all? One of the least happiest countries in the world is India, the birthplace of much of these ideas, where these gurus come to the West and teach us in classes and courses and tell that happiness is within. And yet in their own country, that's not what we see. So does it work? And the answer is quite difficult for most people to understand. Because see, it works if you're willing to accept that the pain and the sadness and the difficulties and the challenges are all part of this existence. It works if you're able to realize that no matter the misery or the suffering or the difficulties, you are not this, and you were never this. This life that you're living isn't you, and was never meant to be you. This life doesn't define the truth of your existence. It doesn't determine your worth or value. You are not a failure, nor are you a success. You are exactly where you are because of everything that has ever happened in your life. And everything that happened in your life was in the moment of it happening exactly and only as it could have been. The choices you made in those moments were a culmination of genetics, micro-gut biomes, experiences, events, and the beliefs that you started to form about how you respond to things. Everything from how well you slept the day before to how long it's been between meals affected every decision that you've ever made in life. The atoms in your body have been traveling about since the first 50,000 years of the universe creation, moving about as a structure of cause and effect. The pain you are feeling is not the pain that you think you're feeling. Things might get better or they might not, and every action you take will be part of all the stimuli and experiences you've had. What opportunities are presented to you are going to be a series of things that you have no control over. And your ability to accept this reality and accept this life and accept the pain and the happiness will decide your ability to be happy. The truth stays the truth. The happiness and peace stays true regardless. But the happiness comes not from always smiling, but understanding that all the tears, all the pain, all the struggle are all part of this experience at this time. When you realize the truth of existence and truly are able to step away from this egoic self enough to look at the world for what it is, you realize that you don't have to lose the pain to be in peace. It won't take away from the reality that you inhabit, and there's no guarantee that anything will ever change or get better. In fact, everything could continue to get worse. And you can still be happy and at peace and recognize the truth of everything. That you are playing out something beyond your imagination. A great cosmic play in which all the characters are played by one being so convincingly it's forgotten what it is and what it's doing. The tears do not mean you are not enlightened. The suffering doesn't mean you are not enlightened. It is only when you get lost in the story of your suffering and your pain and come to believe that this is all there is, that you are then truly suffering, and you are far from your enlightenment. When you can step back from your humanity for a moment, sit in the silence of your mind, you can realize the truth of your existence and the truth of your life, that you are never suffering, and that this is what it is, and every thought and every desire for it to be different is just a story. You will work for what you believe in, fight for something more. Nothing will change when you find this peace and this happiness. Life will still be the same, but no matter what happens, even if everything gets worse, you'll be able to see the truth, even if you forget it sometimes. There is not one thing that isn't what it is supposed to be. Everything is exactly where it's supposed to be at this moment, and there is nothing that is forcing the next moment to be exactly the same. But whatever happens, whatever twists of fate and good fortune or bad that is to follow you, you will always know you are perfect and complete.